The House Education Committee will come to order. Will the clerk please take attendance?
Chair Colazar.
Here.
Representatives Churches.
Here.
Shannon.
Present.
Stone.
Here.
Weiss. Glanville.
Here.
Conlon.
Here.
Edwards. Wagella.
Here.
Green.
Here.
Markinen.
Here.
Paquette.
Here.
Wenzel.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have 12 members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Representative Churches moves to approve the minutes of the May 9th meeting without objection, so ordered. I got a few things on the agenda today, but we are going to start by taking testimony on House Bill 4279 from Representative Vanderwall, and then after that, we'll take testimony on House Bill 4549 for Representative Shannon, and we'll do it in that order. So Representative Vanderwall, if you are ready, we'll start with you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to testify in front of you today. The idea for this bill was brought to me by a superintendent in my district. His intermediate school district contained students that were looking for a career technical education program in order to pursue additional education. However, this particular ISD didn't contain a CTE program within the district. And so they were required to send those students to a CTE in another ISD. This was allowed, but what my superintendent found was that the money that they were getting from the existing CTE millage could not be used to send students to a different ISD. The current rules make it difficult for ISDs that want to encourage their students to participate in career-oriented education and put a financial burden on them. They force them to find another funding channels to provide these students with these opportunities. This bill will allow the ISDs to use millage money to enter into a contract with area ISDs for the purpose of career technical education. It will streamline the process for school districts to send students to nearby centers, increasing access to these important programs. We know how valuable these programs are to our students and our state, so I welcome your support in eliminating this hurdle. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'm willing to answer any questions. I do have a superintendent from another ISD here to help with the testimony, and if it's all right, I'll let him speak and then we'll answer questions together if that's fine with you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you and good morning. I'm Tim Rigling. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of CTE at the Wexford-Missaukee ISD, and this falls in particular to my county. Manistee County currently does not have a millage. They would like to have a millage, but currently they send students to our ISD to take advantage of our career tech ed programs, and also to West Shore ESD. They use their foundation allowance in order to fund that. So what we're hoping this bill is able to do is to allow ISDs to open up opportunities in other ISDs so that these students can take advantage of the career and tech opportunities we have at the Wexford-Missaukee ISD. Obviously, this is a burden for them as on their general education funding. And even with the millage that they pass, they will not be able to set up a career tech center, so they do want to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that West Shore ESD or Wexford-Missaukee ISD has. So, thank you.
Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for this good bill. Just wanted to know if there's any restrictions on proximity one district to another, or is it pretty flexible and wide open to discretion?
Yeah, it's currently just for one ISD in order to be able to collaborate with another ISD. So there is, at this point, no proximity.
They don't have to be neighboring or anything like that?
Thank you. Representative Stone.
Just curious, is there a requirement that the student attend that CTE program in person? I know a lot of them are, capital intensive, or is there virtual options?
Yeah, up at our center, any student that wants to attend a Career Tech Center program needs to attend in person. Yeah, we don't have any virtual options.
Representative Wagella.
Thank you. I think this is a really interesting bill. I think this proposes like a greater problem for our state when we start looking at career technical education programs. I mean, in my district specifically, I live in Garden City. We have 25,000 people in the city. We have a school district. Cannot afford to sustain our own career technical program, but a district nearby, Wayne Westland, has career technical education, and my district can send students there with a pure pupil allowance. But a lot of districts don't want to do that because then you lose money. The concern I think I have, if any, is just thinking about representation of school boards, and that an area that is millage wouldn't be able to vote in those school board elections. Is that my understanding, right? I think we're kind of crossing some interesting lines on that. I know you could then argue maybe through the contract with the other district you get representation of your board, but that was just something I thought about.
Thank you. Yeah, so Manistee ISD, of course, has their own school board, and if the millage is passed, that would be for the students in Manistee ISD, and would allow that school board to make the decisions about how that money is allocated. At this point, their desire is to allocate some of those fundings in order to attend a neighboring ISD.
Representative Conlon.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation. We know we have such a workforce shortage out there. Do we have any idea how this would impact the area, or how many students would take advantage of this program in Millage?
Certainly. Right now, we take students at Wexford Missaukee from Bear Lake and Brethren. About 40 students attend at this time. And certainly, we'd love to have more, because obviously there is a shortage in the workforce. Our numbers are very high. Students want to attend career tech centers. They want opportunities within their ISD as well. We're hoping that some of this millage funding would be able to allow Manistee ISD or Manistee Public Schools, one of the larger school districts, to be able to open up a couple of programs right at their public school as well. So we're hoping to just expand opportunities for kids.
And again, I appreciate the fact that it's a very collaborative approach between various county ISDs. So thank you for that. And any other questions? All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. We are going to move on to House Bill 4549 and have Rep. Shannon make his way over to the other side. Okay. And it sounds like Dr. Kennedy is going to be coming up as well from MDE.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So today I'm here to testify on House Bill 4549. Currently 4945, the bill current law is except as otherwise provided by law. The board of a school district or intermediate school district shall not permit a teacher who does not hold a valid teaching certificate to teach in a grade or department of the school. And then further it goes on and on. But this bill, and some of the restrictions that are allowed. This bill allows for the board of the school district or intermediate school district to employ an individual with an appropriate teaching certificate or permit as a substitute teacher using the following requirements. The individual possesses a valid high school diploma or equivalent. If the individual is an employee of the worker at the school district or intermediate school district, that talks about salaries at that point. And the primary change presented in the bill removes certain requirements for professional certificate, degree, or licensure in certain subjects in order to serve as a substitute teacher. These changes would sunset, that's a major part of the bill, June 30th, 2025, as opposed to 2024. I will add that the Michigan Association of School Administrators are supportive, and also, obviously, the MDE. So, I'm sure there's going to be questions, and whenever anybody is ready.
Representative Glanville.
I was just looking at the summary here, and I just want to clarify the proposed requirements. Is it correct if a prospective substitute instructor is teaching grades 9 through 12, they would need to be at least 21 years of age and also currently enrolled in a teacher education program? Is that?
You would have to be 21 years of age and achieve or get a substitute permit. Yes.
So it's and or?
Or, so I'm going to
Okay.
scoot over.
Yeah, if maybe a better question is, can you please explain?
Yes, it's a little unclear in the summary, but it's for.
So the thought is that if you are teaching at the high school level with only a high school diploma, you should be 21 years or older unless you are in a teacher preparation program.
So you don't, so if you're over 21, you don't need any teacher preparation background, and if you're under 21, it would be an allowance because you're in a teacher preparation program. Is that how I'm reading it?
Correct.
Okay. And that does not apply then to grades K through 8?
Correct. So anyone can teach grades K through 8 with a high school diploma. Once you get to the older grades, that's where the 21 years or older.
Okay. And there's no additional training or anything to be a substitute teacher in grades K through 8? You just have to be 18?
At this point, correct.
Okay.
It is a different. Just so you know, it will be a different category of substitute teacher as far as our permitting is concerned. We will count these substitute teachers differently. The purpose of that is so that we can have a better understanding of the need that's out there. This bill came to us, we had a similar bill for, or a similar law for only a semester about a year ago, and when that sunsetted, the superintendents reached out to the department and said, look, this was really working for us. This was very helpful. We would like to see it again. Our concern with the previous law was that those teachers did not have substitute certification. They were folks who were already working for the school, so they had a level of security, but not the same as we do with substitute teachers. So what this allows us to do is make sure that the adults in front of children have passed a fingerprinting process similar to any substitute teacher, which is much more rigorous and gives us more immediate feedback if there were any concerns. And then this is considered a gap measure until those pipeline investments that we've put into Michigan's Grow Your Own and scholarships have a chance to show fruit, and they are. But this will buy us a few years so that substitute shortage can be addressed, and at the same time will really give us a lot of excellent information about really how broad that substitute shortage is, because right now people are just making do, by combining classrooms and all sorts of things that aren't good for kids.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing this forward. As I've mentioned in committee before, I've done it all, and substitute teaching is one of those things. So it is. I would invite anyone on the committee who has not been a substitute teacher to try that out for a day, just so you get a feel for what that process is and what that work feels like. But I appreciate you bringing this forward. And another point, I think, and it comes up here, I won't belabor the committee here, but just thinking about some of those third-party contractors and the actual rate of pay that substitute teachers get, maybe if we could do something there, when you're making, $9, $10 an hour, there's not a lot of incentive for folks to come in and help our schools out. So, again, maybe those third-party contractors, or there's something that can be done in that space as well.
Sorry, go ahead.
And I'll just add that I worked as a substitute under both forms. I worked directly with the school district and then also under the contractors, and I agree there should be some attention to the contractors to figure out how we can help them recruit people to come in.
I was going to ask that. It was 5 years ago, 2018. I was being asked to sub almost every single day during my prep time. So I know that the pandemic only exacerbated this issue, but I have often wondered if we're truly going to fix the sub shortage. What do we do as a permanent fix? And I would love to hear any ideas, whether it's the sponsor or Dr. Kennedy, if you have any. This has been this is not a new issue.
It is not, and I would say that 10, 15 years ago, there was a pipeline, other people wanting to pursue the teaching profession. And so right there, you already had some, because jobs were hard to find at the time, 10, 15 years ago. And so a lot of these people that wanted to get involved in education and wanted to be teachers, they had to do substitute teaching for a period of time, which I think is a good thing. And so there would naturally would have those people be able to fit into the role as a substitute teacher because of the system that we had at that time. The system no longer exists. It has been broken, and that's why we feel that we need to bring this legislation forward, because we have to do something. We can't continue to kick the can down the road. We have to address the issue now. This gives us a bit of time to fix the issue that we have in front of us. It does sunset in 2025. I don't want this to be a permanent thing. I want it to sunset. We have an extension of a year to give us a little bit more time to fix the mess that we're in.
Another question I have thinking about this issue is, when it comes to my knowledge, new sub stuff be fingerprinted. Who pays for that?
Unfortunately, yes.
This is a leading question.
And the background check also that you go through the I forget what the state police that you have to do. It's on your dime.
I'll have to make that $80 a day. Representative Weiss.
Thank you. And thanks again for bringing this bill forward, because I do think I agree completely, and I've been there too. Not just prep time, but lunchtime too, covering classes. And so I know that this is a huge need. I had a couple of questions, because I've also done the substitute teaching route before I was placed in a classroom. And I remember my first placement, I came in for what I thought was going to be a day that ended up being a long-term sub position for about 3 months, teaching remedial math. And does this bill apply to long-term subs as well as short-term subs? Because I know in that situation I was a sub, but I was actually teaching because I was there for so long.
My understanding is there's no language limiting in this bill the time that a person could substitute teach. We would hope that districts would put their more experienced and certified folks into those long-term sub positions, and that this would be used in emergency situations when folks need someone for 2 or 3 days, certainly not long-term. But there's no language that speaks to that. We would be open to that if someone is interested in amending it.
Okay, and then just really quick too, I know that there's, and I agree that it's good that we have in here that if a school employee is going to substitute, that they have to make at least what they're making currently if that amount is greater than what they would make as a sub. Does the school employee have to apply for the position? Because another possible concern is, let's say a school custodian doesn't want to sub, but is kind of pressured into it, even though they don't want to because of the way that this is structured.
Well, the school custodian would need to apply for a substitute permit, and so they would not be able to just step into a classroom. That's how the former law was written, but in this case, they would have to actually apply for the substitute permit.
That's great. Thank you.
And a school employee would not be forced to sub. So, but yes, you are correct on the salary, that they would not be getting, if the sub salary is lower than the salary that they're making, they would not take a pay cut.
Okay, thank you. Representative Churches.
Thank you. Thank you for what you're trying to do. I understand that the environment in education right now is very trying, and to staff our classrooms is sometimes an impossible task. I've taught classrooms of 60 students because I've had co-workers who've had to go home. I've had my administrator cover my room when I had a doctor's appointment in a closet on a Zoom call. I understand these problems, and I just want to highlight just a different perspective. And I know you probably have already considered it, but putting a person in a classroom that isn't highly qualified, you can't put any substitute in a GSRP room. You can't put any substitute in an emotionally impaired classroom. And I could argue you can't put any substitute in just a 5th grade room like mine easily. And I would like to see something written that really does what's best for kids, of making sure they have someone who is very capable, because our job is to make Michigan a destination place for education. And if we're putting a Band-Aid on something, that's not going to do that. But if we could maybe think about it in a different way of how do we make this bill and help superintendents who are having these really big issues, but I think it comes down to relationship building. How can we make this so that these substitutes become part of these communities? And I think that's a really vital part of this legislation that we have to look and see how we can enhance that, because when you leave subplans for just any sub and they don't do your subplans, or you come back and there's behavior issues, you feel like you failed as a teacher, and you feel like you didn't provide, you shouldn't have taken that doctor's appointment, or you wish you weren't have been sick that day, because it's harder to come back and clean that up, or you have guilt for that. So I would like to try to see if we can enhance this a little bit, and I just wondered if you had any suggestions.
I think that would be a great idea for maybe a different piece of legislation that maybe could speak to training of substitute teachers in general. I would say that one of the things that was not pointed out earlier was that this bill does not apply to special education classrooms. That special education classrooms have to have a certified teacher in them because of IDEA. So there are protections for special education classrooms. I agree, and I understand Rep. Churches. I was an administrator, often subbing. I was one of the highest paid substitutes in Macomb County because I was being paid administrative pay and I ended up covering a lot of classrooms, which then meant I was not available for other emergencies when they came about. So I think that your experiences, the guilt, I believe that that's very valid, and building, one of the things that we hope this bill will do is to build those relationships, and perhaps one of those young people that are substitute teaching, or 21-year-olds who've maybe done a little college but not really directed, they have an experience and then they say, oh, wow, this is what I was meant to do.
Thank you. And, I think that it's fair to say, I've always been of the belief, if you're ever truly going to fix the substitute teacher shortage long-term, you have to fix the teacher shortage first. I think that's very fair. Representative Green.
So thank you. Thank you for this bill. We obviously know this is much needed. I have even a handful of my friends who have retired now who are substitute teaching. So they're definitely filling the gaps. But so to piggyback off of what Rep. Church has said, because my question was going to be to ask, are there videos that the MDE puts out to give tips for behavioral management for subs? But so you may answer that question, but after what she said, do we actually need legislation for that, or can the Department of Education just do that?
So we have an entire library of videos and professional development that teachers are it's available to them anytime that they're interested, including behavioral support. Any number of anything from, better strategies for teaching elementary math to behaviors and special populations. I mean, a vast, vast library of professional development. So certainly those are available. We do not have the authority to mandate that. However, the legislature could easily create some create a bill, and we'd be happy to work with anyone on this committee to refine that so that it actually accomplishes what you're trying to do. But our authority comes from you, and so if the legislature would like to provide us that or seek that authority, we certainly have ways that we could approach that.
So I guess I'm just, because I'm new, a freshman. So for you to create like a quick tip video on like.
We already have those.
For these new subs coming in, you already have these videos?
I believe we do. I will get back with you on that, Rep. Green, to make sure like it's sub-focused.
Yeah.
But I do have,
Yeah.
but we do have.
No, I know you have the
Yes.
vast video for the professional development. I guess I'm surprised that you would need to be mandated by us.
No, we can make a video. We could make videos, and we do, right?
Okay.
So, but requiring a substitute teacher.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not asking
yeah.
that for them to
Yeah,
require.
no,
no, I
certainly.
would just, as a service of the Department of Education, if there were like quick tip videos for these new folks coming in.
I wouldn't be surprised if it already exists, but I'll get back with you and let you know.
Thank you.
And do you mind if I add to that? I would say it is a good idea. And right now, this bill in front of us is us facing reality that we have a problem, and we're doing things that maybe not necessarily all of us are comfortable with, but we have to do something in the immediate. If we move to more of a model where we are hiring subs, that are not intending on going through a teacher certification program, but just want to be in the classroom, they like to be around kids, and they want to be part of their community. First of all, we're going to have to pay them because you're not going to attract them unless we pay them. But moving towards a model, if we have to, we're going to have to assess and go through this process and then assess and see where we're at. But if it was a model where we have some training for substitute teachers to be the most effective subs that they can be, that might be something that we look at in the future. Because if we can't get teachers, Chair Colzar is 100% correct. We solve this problem by solving the teacher shortage problem. Like I was saying earlier, that it was just naturally how the system worked, where we had subs available because there weren't enough jobs during certain time periods back in in history. So I think that it is a good idea, but it depends. I think the model would probably shift, but. Yeah, there should probably be some, maybe online tutorials that they could look before they get in the classroom.
Yeah, I just remember substitute teaching and showing up, loving these kids, but then you don't know what to do.
Representative Wagella.
Thank you for this bill, and I'm gonna try to speak carefully because the intention I think is a good intention. I think it's a problem we need to solve. I spent 5 years of my teaching career in Arizona, which I like to call the land of no certified teachers. And the reason I bring this up is because we didn't have enough teachers there, and what we kept doing to fix that problem was lowering the requirements of becoming a teacher and becoming a substitute. And that didn't solve the problem, right? I taught a year in Arizona with 2 long-term substitutes on my team in reading and writing for the entire year. Many times me having to give up my prep to cover those classes. So I want to put some caution out there because I don't know if I believe, I understand this is supposed to be a gap measure, but how many times can we keep saying things are gap measures before we actually tackle the real issue, which is the teacher shortage? I know we've been talking about that, but even with our historic budget that we just passed out of the House in education, that's not going to solve the problem because we're not paying teachers well, we're not providing the resources that are needed. And my worry with this is if we continue to take actions like this, does this over time do we keep extending sunsets? Does this devalue the profession? That's my hesitation. I think it's well-intentioned. I think it's something that's needed because we have to have people in the classroom. But, I think even if it alleviates some pressures to the public, hey, my kid has someone in the classroom, is that the right person in the classroom? And that's what I wanted to say.
I'll respond to that. We all have those concerns. We don't want to be necessarily going down this road every 3, 4, 5 years. We want to be able to solve the problem in a systematic way, but we need a little time to figure this out. So, I believe that this bill does that, gives us some time. But no, I don't want to be here in 2025 and doing another sunset, to whatever year.
Thank you. Representative Paquette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Rep. Shannon, for championing this issue. I know it's a big one. In terms of, I know some folks kind of cringe a little bit about a lunch lady or a bus driver potentially subbing, but in my estimation, my experience, when I was teaching as a traveling Spanish teacher, really hard to find people to fill in for that position. So I'd have the people with 60 college credits come in, and my kids wouldn't really enjoy their presence, and they're the only person that I could have. So I think the most important thing for a substitute teacher is to know the kids' names, have a reputation in the community or in the school, and obviously a lot of these employees do. So thank you for that. One thing I wanted to point out is that the governor actually signed a bunch of tributes for some of the success stories around the state of people who did step up and fill in for the classroom. So those are some really, really good things that are out there where people stepped in and there were high success stories around this. So just wanted to point you to that. But yeah, the way we do pay teachers is backwards. So if we can change that, I think that might solve our teacher shortage because the only way to make more money in teaching is to work longer years, and that's why we lose a lot of talent. But thank you for your work on this. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Representative Stone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I am a big champion of data-driven decision-making. Do we have from the last iteration how many subs were added to the pool with similar legislation?
We don't because we weren't counting them.
Gotcha.
So this allows it because they did not have to apply for a certificate. It was a local decision, and the teacher of record didn't change. So this will allow us to really ask me that question in a year, and I will have an answer.
Okay. Do we have any data on change in pay for substitute teachers for districts across the state in the last couple years?
I don't have that information with me, but I'm happy to get it for you by the end of the day.
I appreciate that. And do we have any, well, I guess this is one other thing that I'd love to look at is how this or similar legislation impacts districts differently. Do we see a disparate application of it based on high need areas?
Again, we don't have any data on that because the trial balloon that was floated a little over a year ago was not something that we were able to collect data on. So we will have a much better idea in a year. I'll call you then.
Thank you. Representative Glanville.
Thank you. I just want to return to a couple of things. First of all, I echo the concerns about watering down the profession, but I think it's important to keep in mind not only we are just now at a point where we are doing the proper investments in our schools. And it's not so much that it's going to take us a few years to figure this out as it's going to take a little bit of time for those investments to show up in our schools. We are figuring it out, but it's not like you flip a switch and suddenly, everything is fixed. We're decades into this. So I appreciate that we need some of these sunsets. We need additional time to let the system continue to work itself out with the corrections we're already implementing. So just to speak to that. And then I just want to understand, and I asked this question at the beginning, I'm still a little bit confused, and so I'm going to try to ask it a little more clearly. Can you talk about like the third party, and maybe I'm too far, I've been away from it for a little bit too long, but my understanding is that there are it's kind of a two-tiered system. A school might actually contract somebody to be an on-site substitute that just gets passed around all day long kind of thing. And they might contract with a third-party provider. And my experience as being in that system is that, to Rep. Green's concerns, they train you. I mean, there's a certain amount of training that goes into it. So this idea that people are walking into the classroom with no experience, I think I just want to address that and understand, is this bill impacting those direct contracts that schools make? Is it impacting the third-party contractors? Is it both? Like, help me understand.
This is a system-wide change, so this would allow those third-party organizations, vendors, to someone who falls into these categories could now apply to be a substitute. They would get the same training, they would do the same fingerprinting. It's the exact same system, we're just changing the parameters of who's allowed to be in the classroom.
Okay, so you're changing the hiring requirements more or less for those contractors, but it would be safe to assume they're not going to change the way they do business.
I would hope so.
And then I would add to that too. I think I know kind of understand where you're going. It would be school districts are going to understand what the rules are in the bill, and when they make those contracts, they're going to require those contractors to be able to make sure that they're adhering to these bills, or to this bill and to what potentially could be a law. So
Yeah, that's very helpful, and that's what I just feel like there was this sort of looming idea that perhaps we're just picking 18-year-olds off the street and putting them in the classroom.
I
but
think
there is an actual process they go through with the company they work for, whereby they are trained, they are background checked, they are fingerprinted. They're not. I mean, there's a little bit more meat to it than because it already exists. So it's maybe not mentioned in the bill. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, I'm guilty of this too. When I was reading the bill and kind of processing this, I kept 21 in my head. It was 20, but that sets the minimum, right? So there'll be people from all ages, 21 and up. It just sets the minimum. We're not. That's not necessarily our goal to find 21-year-olds to come into the classroom. It's just sets the minimum age. But I did the same thing where I just couldn't get past thinking about the minimum age. So,
Thank you.
I will say this, that if somebody who is, and I think also Representative Paquette mentioned this, if there is somebody who is, maybe they don't know what they want to do, but they get into that classroom, they have this great experience where they really help a kid and they see what they could do, and this steers them to teaching, I think that could be a great consequence of this.
I think we are going to get teachers and paras out of this program. I really do. I mean, what the number is, we'll find out in a year, or be a few years after that. But I think that this does give an opportunity, and it does give an opportunity for somebody that maybe is considered teaching, but they're not sure if they, because we lose teachers after, the statistic is after 5 years, we lose a significant amount of teachers because they don't know what they're getting themselves into per se. So if we this could be an opportunity, let's find some positive in it. This could be an opportunity to be able to expose more people that might have some interest in it to become teachers and paras.
And with the Representative Paquette, you wanted to?
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on that because I completely agree. I fell into teaching, got hired at Benton Harbor High School because I'd worked at Taco Bell when I was 15 years old, and they wanted me to teach nutrition. So I had a bachelor's degree, so they tossed me in there. And it was what got me into loving teaching and showed me the way on what I needed to do, jump through some hoops for a master's degree to get certified. But yeah, really grateful for that. This is going to open the door for a lot of people. I want to discern as well that substitute teaching is not a profession. It's not something that's like, oh, I want to grow up to be a substitute teacher. People pursue the profession of teaching by being experienced, the fulfilling world that teaching and substitute teaching can bring. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate both of you being here. And with that, I want to read in a few cards to not just this bill, but to House Bill 4279. So House Bills, not wishing to speak, supporting House Bills 4279 and 4259, Peter Spatafor from Michigan Alliance for Student Opportunity. Not wishing to speak, supporting House Bill 4549, Chris Glass, Education Advocates of West Michigan. Not wishing to speak, supporting House Bill 4549, Alicia Urbane from Michigan Association of Public School Academies. Not wishing to speak, supporting House Bill 4549, Matt Schuler, Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators. Not wishing to speak, supporting House Bill 4279, Dawn Crandall from HBA, or the Home Builders of Michigan. And not wishing to speak, supporting House Bill 4279, Matt Schuler, Michigan Association of Superintendents. I also have two cards here for both House Bills 4549 and 4279. No position on the bills, but has asked for 3 minutes to speak on them. It says Love. Okay, I will ask you to keep it to 3 minutes for both of these if you do want to speak to them. Do you? It would be right now, yes. But we still have more business, so I would ask that you keep it to the 3 minutes. Oh, can you please hit the button for the microphone right in front of you?
Hello. Hello. Education is very important. The problem is, they're stealing money from the school aid fund. And how they're doing it is with this scam that they're doing in Detroit on giving Illich $900 million.
Sir, can I ask what this has to do with our bills before us today? That you wish-
This is money for the bill. This is what they're doing to us. And we need the money. Don't we need the money for education? That's the issue. And here's the documents. They're taking $186 million from the school operating fund. It's in violation of the state constitution.
This is not sir, I'm sorry, it's not relevant to these bills. I'd be happy to meet with you some other time to talk about this.
It is
but
relevant. This is a public opportunity to talk about it. I have 3 minutes, and you're saying, forget it.
Well, you said you wanted to speak to these bills.
This is the bill, the money for this bill. It's the money for this bill.
No.
Where's the money come from?
Well, for the seat, that's local millages that we're talking about, which is in the case, special
Well,
elections.
This is local money. This is money for the local schools. That's the issue. Do you understand?
I understand what you're trying to say, but it has nothing to do with these bills, sir.
Money has a great deal for education and for this bill. That's it. And they're taking it illegally. The school aid fund is protected by the Constitution, and they're giving them millions of dollars, taking it right out of the local school, right out of the local school money. And they're taking it out of Wayne County's RESA. They're taking $36 million from them. That's unconstitutional. And this scam has been going on for Illich, and what does he do? He doesn't even finish the buildings he promises to do. That's the problem. I don't want to talk about this forever. I just want to bring it to your attention. And here's one of the buildings that he got $1 million for, and it's unfinished. Here's another one, the Illich School of Business Corruption. Here's what it was presented to look like. This is what they built. It looks like a pizza parlor. And the kids are objecting because it's right next to the arena, and they don't have any, they have to pay these parking prices. So that's what's going on. I'll give you this, and then I'll leave, and you can continue. But I want you to have a copy of this that says they're taking school money, and here's the numbers, and here's the Constitution. It says, shall be established and used exclusively, not to give Illich a new rebuild for the Fox Theater. It's for education, and this is a crime. So that's
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, we are going to move on to, we do have substitutes for the, we're going to move on to voting on Senate Bills 161 and 162. But first of all, I understand that we have substitutes. We will start with a substitute for Senate Bill 161, which Representative Shannon makes that motion to adopt the substitute. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On motion to adopt substitute, Chair Colazar.
Yes.
Representatives Churches. Yes. Shannon.
Yes.
Stone.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Glanville.
Yes.
Conlon.
Yes.
Edwards. Shoot, sorry. Wagella.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Markkinen.
Yes.
Paquette.
Yes.
Wenzel.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 13 yeas, 0 nays, 0 passes. The substitute is adopted.
Thank you. And now I need a motion to report Senate Bill 161 with recommendation. Representative Conlon makes that motion. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On the motion to report recommendation, Chair Colazar.
Yes.
Representatives Churches.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Stone.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Glanville.
Yes.
Conlon.
Yes.
Edwards. Wagella.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Markkinen.
Yes.
Paquette.
Yes.
Wenzel.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 13 yeas, 0 nays, 0 passes. Senate Bill 161 is reported with recommendation.
Thank you. And now I need a motion on adopting an H1 substitute for Senate Bill 162. Representative Weiss makes that motion. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On motion adopting the substitute, Chair Colazar.
Yes.
Representatives Churches.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Stone.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Glanville.
Yes.
Conlon.
Yes.
Edwards. Wagella.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Markkinen.
Yes.
Paquette.
Yes.
Wenzel.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, 13 yeas, 0 nays, 0 passes. Substitute H1 is adopted.
Thank you. And now I need a motion to report Senate Bill 162 with recommendation. Representative Stone makes that motion. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Colazar.
Yes.
Representatives Churches.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Stone.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Glanville.
Yes.
Conlon.
Yes.
Edwards. Wagella.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Markkinen.
Yes.
Paquette.
Yes.
Wenzel.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 13 yeas, 0 nays, 0 passes. Senate Bill 162 is reported for recommendation.
Thank you. And there being no further business before the committee will stand adjourned.